Day in the life of an intergalactic emergency department. Or how I learned to stop worrying and accept that humans are actually insane. Written by Chief Medical Officer Prax Sunweaver. Central Galactic Medical Hub, Station 47. Date 3742.256 Standard Galactic Time. Look, I've been a medical professional for over 3 decades now. 3 whole decades. I've treated plasma burns that turned patients into living light shows, encountered parasites that tried to establish democracy in their host's intestines, and even dealt with a case where someone's consciousness got uploaded into their coffee maker. That last one was actually quite pleasant. The patient made excellent espresso while we worked on a solution. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the day a human walked into my emergency department. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. Nothing could have prepared me for the week that followed, because as it turns out, where there's one human, there's usually an entire disaster waiting to happen. Oh, where are my manners? I should probably introduce myself. I'm Dr. Prax Sunweaver, Chief Medical Officer at Station 47 Central Galactic Medical Hub. I'm what humans would call a space octopus, though I prefer the term cephalopodian enhancement specialist. It sounds more professional, don't you think? Plus, I have 12 tentacles, not 8. Get your xenobiology right, people. Our medical station orbits a rather unremarkable star in what humans call the Orion Arm. We're classified as a Level 1 trauma center, capable of handling everything from simple plasma burns to full quantum displacement syndrome. At least that's what our certification says. Reality, as I'm learning, has a way of testing those certifications, especially when humans are involved. Anyway, back to the story. It was just another normal day in the doctor. Brightscales was treating a Voraxian with a case of spontaneous antimatter hiccups. Yes, that's a thing, and yes, it's as dangerous as it sounds. Nurse Starwhisper was helping a silicon-based life form who had accidentally downloaded a virus, both the computer and biological kind, don't ask. And I was finishing up my 7th cup of caffeine substitute while filing reports. That's when the proximity alarms went off. Incoming emergency. Deathworlder transport. Category 1 trauma. The AI announcement system chimed with all the enthusiasm of a funeral director at a birthday party. The entire department froze. Even the antimatter hiccups stopped momentarily. Did it just say Deathworlder? Dr. Brightscales' scales turned a particularly amusing shade of pale green. As in, human. I didn't have time to answer because the doors whooshed open, and in walked scratch that, and strolled the most terrifying sight I'd ever seen in my medical career. A human, walking, talking, laughing, with a piece of metal debris the size of my head sticking out of their chest. Hey folks, the human waved at us with a bloody hand. Sorry to barge in like this, but I had a bit of an accident at the engineering bay. Don't worry though, it's just a flesh wound. Just a flesh wound. I'm going to pause here and remind everyone that most species consider having a giant piece of metal through your thoracic cavity as somewhat more serious than a flesh wound. In fact, we generally categorize it under catastrophically dead, or at the very least about to be catastrophically dead. But no, not humans. They treat fatal injuries like minor inconveniences. And this particular human was about to turn my entire medical worldview upside down. Sir, I managed to say, while simultaneously using 3 of my tentacles to prevent Dr. Brightscales from fainting, "Please lie down immediately. You have a significant trauma." The human, who later introduced himself as Jack Morrison, looked down at the metal shaft protruding from his chest as if noticing it for the first time. "Oh, this? Yeah, a bit of a pain." Literally, he laughed at his own joke while blood dripped onto our pristine floor. "But listen, I've got a meeting in 20 minutes. Any chance we could speed this up?" The entire medical team stared in horror as Jack pulled out his communication device and started checking his messages, with a metal bar through his chest. "Security," I called out, "please assist in containing the patient." Our security team, consisting of 2 rather burly Ursanian brothers named Grok and Brock, approached cautiously. Now, Ursanians are impressive specimens, 8 feet tall, covered in fur and muscle, capable of bending steel. They're the kind of species that makes most others feel very small and squishy. Jack looked up from his device and smiled. "Oh hey, you guys must be new. I'm Jack. Engineering department. Love the fur, very impressive. Say, either of you good at pulling things out, because this thing is really starting to annoy me, and I tried reaching it, but it's just at that awkward angle, you know." Grok and Brock looked at each other, then at me, their expressions clearly saying, "We don't get paid enough for this." I quickly activated the emergency protocols, causing a containment field to spring up around the trauma bay. "Mr. Morrison, I must insist you remain still. We need to assess the damage and—" "Oh, the damage," Jack interrupted, still typing on his device. "Well, the metal bar entered just below my right clavicle, probably nicked the subclavian artery, hence all the blood. Sorry about your floor, by the way, passed through the upper lobe of my right lung and exited through my back, missing my spine by about 2 centimeters. Lucky break, right?" The entire medical team stared at him. Dr. Brightscales made a sound like a deflating balloon. "Hey, you did a self-diagnostic?" I asked, wondering if perhaps the blood loss had made him delirious. "Well, yeah," Jack shrugged, then winced slightly. Ouch. Note to self, shrugging with a metal bar through the shoulder? Not recommended. Anyway, basic field medicine. They teach us this stuff in elementary school. You know, right after multiplication tables and before learning how to survive atmospheric re-entry without a pod. I heard Nurse Star whisper to another staff member. They teach what in elementary school? I pulled myself together. I was a professional. Damn it, I'd handled worse. Well, no, actually I hadn't, but I was still a professional. "Mr. Morrison, while your self-diagnostic is impressive, we need to get you into surgery immediately. That bar has likely caused significant internal damage and—" "Oh, right." The meeting, Jack suddenly remembered, looking at his device again. "Hey, quick question, if I pull this out myself, how long would it take to patch me up? Ballpark figure." "If you what?" The entire medical team screamed in unison. But before anyone could stop him, and let me tell you, 12 tentacles are usually pretty good at stopping things, Jack Morrison grabbed the metal bar and, with a grunt and a sound that will haunt my nightmares forever, pulled it out of his chest. The bar clattered to the floor, followed by a concerning amount of blood, and then the human had the audacity to look pleased with himself. "There, that's better. Now we can work faster, right? Because this meeting is pretty important, and, oh wow, the room is spinning a bit. That's new. Hey, is it normal for there to be 3 of each of you? No? Ha." And then finally he passed out. The next few hours were a blur of surgery, panic, more panic, and several staff members requiring sedation, mostly Dr. Brightscales. They're still in therapy. We managed to repair the damage, which was exactly as Jack had diagnosed, much to everyone's confusion and mild annoyance. Now, you'd think that would be the end of it. One human, one horrifying medical incident, one day to recover from the trauma. But oh no, because as we would soon learn, humans travel in packs. The very next day, while Jack was still in recovery against his wishes, he tried to escape twice, citing important engineering stuff as his reason. We received another emergency call. Oncoming trauma, multiple Deathworlders, mass casualty incident. I don't mind admitting that I seriously considered retiring right then and there. The doors burst open, and in came 5 humans. 5. All of them from the same engineering team as Jack. All of them injured in various ways that should have been fatal. All of them. Laughing. "Hey Doc," the first one called out, a female human named Sarah Chen, as I would later learn. She was holding her clearly broken arm at an angle that made Dr. Brightscales faint again. "So funny story, we were trying to fix what happened to Jack yesterday." Let me guess, I interrupted, already feeling a headache coming on in all 3 of my brains. "The antimatter containment field." Yes, she beamed, apparently delighted that I knew about it. "Well, we thought we had it under control, but then Tommy here," she jerked her thumb at a soot-covered human who was currently trying to put his own dislocated shoulder back in place. "Tommy had this great idea." It would have worked too. Tommy defended himself, wincing as his shoulder popped back into place with a sound that made Nurse Star turn an interesting shade of purple. If the gravitational field hadn't reversed unexpectedly, which is why Maya ended up on the ceiling, another human chimed in, this one sporting what appeared to be 3rd-degree plasma burns across 40% of their body. They seemed more amused than concerned about this fact. The mentioned Maya, who had a piece of ceiling tile still stuck in her hair, just grinned, best view in the house. Until the artificial gravity kicked back in. Anyway, though I think I left my spleen up there. The 5th human, who hadn't spoken yet, finally piped up. "Oh, that reminds me, has anyone seen my left foot? It was there when we started, but after the quantum fluctuation." I'm proud to say I maintained my professional composure for exactly 2.3 seconds before screaming, "Everyone on a bed, now." No arguments. And for the love of all that holy, stop trying to pop your own bones back into place. To my surprise, they actually complied, though I suspect it was more out of amusement than any real concern for their conditions. The next 12 hours were a blur of surgeries, regenerations, and increasingly bizarre medical procedures. We reattached the fifth human's foot. It had quantumly displaced itself into the station's waste recycling system, don't ask. Treated Maya's various injuries. Her spleen was, indeed, still stuck to the ceiling of the engineering bay, and dealt with more broken bones, burns, and internal injuries than I'd seen in my entire career. And through it all, they kept joking, making puns, trying to one-up each other with stories of previous injuries. "Remember that time on Mars when you fell into the volcano?" Sarah asked Tommy while I was setting her arm. "Oh yeah, good times. Though not as good as when Maya got sucked into that wormhole last month." "Hey, I came back mostly intact," Maya protested. "And I brought souvenirs from another dimension." "Those weren't souvenirs, they were parasites," the fifth human, whose name turned out to be Alex, pointed out. Potato, Maya shrugged. "They made excellent pets once we taught them not to eat people's memories." I made a mental note to update our parasitology protocols, and maybe add a section about interdimensional infections. By the time we had everyone stabilized, I'd learned more about human physiology than I ever wanted to know. Did you know they can survive with only one lung? Or that their bones can heal stronger than before? Or that they consider coffee a perfectly acceptable replacement for sleep? Speaking of coffee, that's when Jack decided to make his appearance. He had somehow escaped from his recovery room. We later found out he'd sweet-talked the medical AI into releasing his restraints by solving complex quantum equations with it, and was now standing in the doorway of the trauma bay, looking far too healthy for someone who had had a metal bar through their chest less than 24 hours ago. "Hey team," he called out cheerfully. "Heard you tried to fix the containment field without me." "Jack," they all shouted in unison, like this was some sort of reunion party and not a trauma ward. "Should have waited for you," Boss Tommy said, still trying to crack his newly relocated shoulder. "Your crazy ideas usually work better than mine." "Oh, thanks. But, hey, at least you guys got to have some fun without me. Though next time, maybe try not to break the artificial gravity? The station administrator is getting a bit twitchy about our repair methods." That's when I decided to intervene. "There will be no next time. All of you are confined to bed rest for at least a week." They all looked at me with expressions of pure innocence that I didn't trust for a second. "But Doc," Sarah started, "we've got to fix the..." "No. The station really needs..." Tommy tried. "No. If we don't adjust the quantum flux," Maya began. "Absolutely not." "What if we promise to wear safety equipment this time?" Alex suggested. I threw all 12 of my tentacles up in exasperation. "You mean you weren't wearing safety equipment before?" "Well, we were," Jack explained, "but it sort of dissolved when the antimatter field hiccuped. I think that's when I started laughing. Or crying. Possibly both. It's all a bit fuzzy in my memory." The really disturbing part? This wasn't even close to the most severe injury humans had survived. While we were working, I had our AI pull up human medical records and, well, let's just say I now understand why they're classified as Deathworlders. There was the case of a human surviving a fall from their orbital station. Another who continued fighting after losing both legs in battle. They apparently dragged themselves across the battlefield using just their arms while still shooting. And my personal favorite, the human who swallowed a small fusion reactor on a dare and only suffered mild indigestion. When I brought these cases up to my current patients, they actually got excited. "Oh yeah, Steve," the reactor guy Jack exclaimed. "He's coming to the station next month for the engineering conference. Great guy, makes the best radioactive cocktails you've ever tasted." That's when I decided to implement new protocols for human patients. First, we doubled all sedative doses. Then we installed physical restraints rated for Class 12 strength species. Finally, and most importantly, we started a support group for medical professionals dealing with human patients. Dr. Brightscale suggested we call it Survivors of Human Medical Incidents. The name stuck. We meet every Thursday. There's cake, and we take turns sharing our human patient stories, each more terrifying than the last. Last week we had a doctor from Station 23 tell us about a human who used their own femur as a weapon after it was exposed in a mining accident. The human's explanation? Well, if it's already out, might as well make it useful. The engineering team did eventually fix the antimatter containment field. How, you ask? Well, according to the incident report, which I had to read because they all ended up in my head again, they reversed the polarity of the neutron flow. I'm pretty sure that's not a real thing. Used Maya's dimensional parasites to eat the quantum instability, definitely not approved by any safety board. Had Jack climb into the containment field itself to give it a good whack with a wrench. I don't even have words for this one. Surprisingly, it worked. Unsurprisingly, they all ended up back in my care. But this time, they at least had the courtesy to arrive unconscious. Oh, and remember that whiskey Jack brought me as a thank you gift. Turns out it wasn't moving in the bottle, that was just the light refracting through the quantum particles they'd accidentally infused it with during the repair. It actually made the drink quite interesting. I now understand why humans think they're invincible. If they regularly consume something that feels like liquid plasma, no wonder they think a metal bar through the chest is just a flesh wound. I've since updated my resume to include specialist in human-induced medical chaos and professional witness to the impossible. It's gotten me a lot of interesting job offers, but honestly, I think I'll stay right where I am. After all, someone needs to be here to document these incidents for future medical professionals, and to remind humans that walking it off is not a valid medical treatment for 99% of injuries. Though I have to admit, watching a human walk off injuries that would kill most species is kind of impressive, in a terrifying what in the name of all that's holy kind of way. Speaking of impressive, I should mention what happened last week. The engineering team, yes, the same one our station administrator has given up on trying to transfer them, decided to upgrade our medical facilities without permission, or warning, or basic safety protocols. I arrived for my morning shift to find Jack hanging upside down from the ceiling, rewiring our diagnostic scanners while Sarah was elbow deep in our quantum regenerator's core. Maya was teaching her dimensional parasites to enhance our medical AI. The AI is now telling jokes during surgeries, inappropriate ones, and Tommy was. Well, I'm still not entirely sure what Tommy was doing, but it involved a lot of sparks and maniacal laughter. Morning Doc Jack called out cheerfully, waving with one hand while holding a bundle of highly sensitive neural interface wires in his teeth. Don't mind us, just making some improvements. Improvements, I may have squeaked the word. Just a little. To my medical bay. Yes, Sarah's voice echoed from inside the regenerator. We figured after patching us up so many times, you deserve some upgrades. Oh, by the way, if anything starts glowing green, don't worry about it. That's totally normal. Normal, I looked around at my once pristine medical bay, now resembling something between a mad scientist's laboratory and a quantum physics experiment gone wrong. What exactly are you upgrading? Everything. Tommy emerged from whatever he was working on, his hair standing on end and smoking slightly. We've increased the regenerator's efficiency by 300%, taught the diagnostic scanners to detect problems in 11 different dimensions, and the medical AI can now perform surgery in zero gravity. Why would we need to perform surgery in zero gravity? The entire team looked at me like I just asked why water was wet. Why wouldn't we? Maya chimed in, while one of her parasites appeared to be teaching our medical AI to play chess. It's always good to be prepared. Plus, after last month's gravity generator incident. No, I held up all 12 tentacles in my most authoritative stop gesture. We are not discussing any more incidents. What I want to know is whether any of these improvements are actually safe. Safe is relative, Jack mused, still upside down. But we did test everything. On what? Ourselves. Obviously, Sarah emerged from the regenerator, covered in quantum fluid but grinning. Jack let us scan him with the upgraded diagnostics. I tried out the enhanced regenerator on Tommy's last concussion, and Maya's parasites have already approved all the AI modifications. I should have been horrified. I should have called security. I should have done something other than stand there, watching as these chaos-inducing Deathworlders turned my state-of-the-art medical bay into something that would make a mad scientist jealous. But you know what the worst part was? All their modifications actually worked. The diagnostic scanners now pick up injuries before they even happen, though I'm still trying to figure out how to explain future trauma in my medical reports. The regenerator works at speeds I wouldn't have thought possible. And the AI. Well, its jokes are terrible, but its surgical precision in zero gravity is impressive. When the station administrator came to inspect the unauthorized modifications, they found our efficiency had increased by 500%. The waiting time for non-emergency procedures had dropped to 0. And somehow Maya's dimensional parasites had figured out how to make our caffeine substitute taste exactly like real Earth coffee. The administrator took one look at our new setup, looked at the beaming engineering team who were all sporting various new injuries from the upgrade process, looked at me and just said, "I don't want to know, just keep them alive." And that's become my new normal. Keeping track of a team of humans who treat fatal injuries like minor inconveniences, who think quantum physics is something to be tinkered with during lunch breaks, and who have somehow turned my medical bay into the most advanced if slightly unstable facility in the sector. Last week we even had a visit from the Galactic Medical Board. They came to investigate reports of our unusual methods and concerning survival rates. They left with 3 new research grants and a slight case of quantum hiccups courtesy of Tommy's latest experiment. So here I am, Chief Medical Officer of what is now officially classified as a specialized Deathworlder treatment facility running both an emergency department and a support group for traumatized medical professionals. We still meet every Thursday. The cake is now quantum enhanced, don't ask, and we take turns sharing our human patient stories, each more terrifying than the last. I've learned a few things from all this. Humans don't understand the concept of impossible. What doesn't kill them really does make them stronger and more likely to try it again. Never, ever tell a human engineer something can't be improved. Keep the sedatives locked up, because they've figured out how to metabolize our strongest ones like they're candy. Always have a backup plan for your backup plan, because humans will find a way to make both necessary. And report. P.S. Jack and his team have just informed me they're planning to improve the station's antimatter drive next week. I've already prepped the trauma bay and ordered triple our usual supply of regeneration fluid. Sometimes the best you can do is prepare for the inevitable. P.P.S. The whiskey they gave me? Turns out it actually was alive. Maya's parasites got into it somehow. It now tells jokes and gives medical advice. Still tastes good though. Medical log end. Filed under "Why did I choose this profession in humans or space orcs?" Additional note: this report has been classified as required reading for all new xenobiological medical professionals. May the stars help them all.